Live stream. It's the first time I've ever just done one on a Saturday morning because normally I would be in class. So, in terms of defining my limits, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday. Specifically, what I aim to do with when I'm teaching the martial arts. Because he was asking me, well, I had to use X approach. Why didn't you use this approach in the military? And why don't you teach this approach? And what I was saying is, see, in the military, this is one of the problems I had with what I learned in the military, even though they are kind of addressing it now by teaching the Marine Corps BJJ. In the military, you're learning to kill people. Like, everything is just kill. You're not trying to learn how to de-escalate anything or have different varying levels of force. You're just trying to kill somebody. And everything has to be one shot, one kill. If you're in like a gang type thing, you may be trying to kill the person, but you're definitely trying to do seriously bodily harm to the person. There's really no need for de-escalation, though. With what I've had to walk out in my life, and what I actually typically tend to have to deal with, I need martial arts on a scale from 0 all the way up to 100. But most of my stuff is probably going to be in the 20 to 30 range, and it could jump up to 80 or 90 on me. So I can't always go one shot, one kill, and I can't always go, I'm going to use deception and ambush the person. Like if you're in the gang life, if you're thugging it, you have those options. You can try to ambush somebody. But me, living as a regular person who just wants to have a peaceful life, who may have to deal with some type of things, I'm not in a position to ambush anybody. There's no need for me to ambush anyone. And here's the thing. I can avoid the true military combat type thing by just not being in the military. Well, they don't want me anymore anyway, so I'm a little old to be joining the army. I definitely can avoid the gang thing by not doing that either. Maybe I could be a victim of crime, but you can avoid a lot of crime by awareness and where you choose to live. It's not a 100% guarantee, of course. Most of the things I would have to deal with at my age, and what really most normal people have to deal with, is like you're sitting in the kitchen and something starts to escalate, and, you know, because someone either is mentally unstable, I've had to deal with that, or some kind of misunderstanding, something starts off as just a fight, or even it's just posturing, is not really a fight, and then things kind of get out of hand, and then it could go to something where someone could accidentally get hurt. So you may have to deal with something that's fatal, even if that's not necessarily the original intention of it being fatal. So you have to have, in my opinion, it's the most difficult because you have to have the widest range of skill sets. Now, if something were to happen at like my job where I'm working at now, where let's say it's an active shooter situation, that's what they call that. You know, people come in and shoot up the workplace. It's not my responsibility to handle that. My responsibility is to move, get out the way. That's my responsibility, is not to try to be a hero. But if I get caught and I can't get out of it, then I have to do something. And the thing is, since I wouldn't be in that situation all the time, I'm not, like a police officer, security person, it's going to be a little harder for me to get my nerves and my mental up so that if I'm going, da-da-da-da-da, I got a cup of coffee too, oh my gosh, he's got a pistol, and I can't avoid it, to switch gears like that. Most regular people don't walk around in like a low-level aggression awareness like you do if you're in the military or if you're a gangster. If you're in the military in a war zone, of course you're aware because, you're in a war zone, the enemy can come out at any time. If you're in a gang life, you got to be aware because your enemy could come out at any time. But us regular people, if I'm walking down to the cafeteria to get a cup of coffee, it's very unlikely that somebody's going to try to sucker punch me or ambush me. It's just not going to happen. I'm not thinking about that. And then if they did, they're going out of the building in handcuffs. So and this is another thing. Because of stuff like that, especially when you get to be around my age, I'm in my late 40s and I'm working at a professional job. A lot of people around my age, we kind of feel like, but there's no real need for me to be thinking about martial arts or taking anything like that for that matter, because I'm not as limber as I used to be and I really don't need it. Why should I do that when if something happens, I'm going to call a cop? And honestly, they have a point. But I always fall back on the idea that, number one, I need to do something to exercise because, I suck at most sports. That's just the truth. I'm not the world's greatest basketball player. I'm terrible at tennis. So doing those to stay in shape, that's not going to help. People, you're going to get impatient with me trying to play tennis because you're going to be like, I can't even get a workout because the guy can't hit the ball. So tennis and racquetball are out for me. In terms of workouts, if I did that with someone else, that's just out because I suck. But I can do martial arts and sweat and stuff like that. And even though now I don't use those as my primary sweat, I have to sweat and stay physically fit enough to be able to demonstrate the techniques. So now it's like it indirectly makes me sweat because I have to be able to do it. And then every once in a while, I have to use that to sweat. Because if I feel like my body's losing the ability to do a technique, like I've been saying in some of my videos, I want my jump kicks to be better so I can show them, hey, then I got to get up and do my jump kicks. Even though I'm not going to use, I shouldn't say I'm not going to. I probably wouldn't use that in self-defense. So that's my parameters. I'm not necessarily concerned with military-type combat. I can't do one shot, one kill. Because when you're a civilian like me, if somebody tries to punch me in the face, I cannot just punch them in the throat. I can't do that. I'm probably going to go to jail. Even if I'm ultimately excused or cleared, I'm still going to be in trouble for doing that. You could do that if you're a gangster. You're probably still going to go to jail. You could definitely do that if you're a soldier in a war zone. They pop out the bushes with a knife or get ready to shoot you. You hit them in the throat, they're done. There's no crime committed there. And another thing, with a lot of the prescription drugs that people are taking and a lot of people just abusing drugs, there is a chance I could have to cross paths with somebody that's high, that's on something. And they may choose to confront me. It has happened before, where I'm literally minding my own business, especially I had my son with me when he was little and we lived in that area. A person is high or out of their mind some kind of way, and they decide to bring it over here. How do I handle it? And then again, depending on who the person is that's out of their mind, I might not be able to kick them in the head. I might have to find a way to de-escalate or deflect and redirect, and then get my kid and get out the way. Do I want to fight this person? Do I want my child to see me throwing someone on their head? I mean, if you got to, you got to. But what I'm saying is I got to have options. So that's my parameter. As a civilian, it's mostly going to be for health, stress management, de-escalation, and I guess you could call it, de-escalation, being able to deal with various levels of force and dealing with the situation that could, guess you could say, is unstable levels of aggression, where it could appear to just be a fight, then the person jumps up and wants to take it into combat because they're mad that they're losing. Okay? So it's a different dynamic trying to function as a civilian than if you're a gangster. You don't care about the law. You're military. You're only bound by laws that pertain to, what is that thing? The Geneva Convention Code. You're only bound by rules of war. Or for that matter, if you're a police officer, where you're going to have more leeway because you are authorized to use deadly force. Now, I didn't even talk about that earlier. If I were a police officer, I would definitely have a lot more leeway. And I could carry a gun with me and not worry about it. Now, all you, I just shoot 'em people or I just stab 'em people, you do know that you can't always have your gun with you. And if you're carrying a knife, it's got to be regulation. So you're not allowed to just stab everybody that comes up to you. And people do it. And you know what? And people like me individually, I read about you on the internet and I make a video about you because you end up going to jail because you stabbed someone. And then when the jury looks at you, they go, you didn't have to stab that person. Why did you stab that person? You didn't have to stab that person. So my parameters are that I'm a regular person. Hasib too says these rules vary from state to state. Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that, sir. Because that makes it even more complicated. What you can do in Texas, you can't do in Maryland. You can't do in Virginia. You can't do in D.C. So we civilians have to know that too. And where I've been reaching to grab that right now is from Andrew Branca. He does law of self-defense, but his stuff is geared towards concealed carry people. So I'm going to start buying some of his products after I finish paying off this Art Mason product. And I still got to enroll in that disarm course. We have to know where we are and what we are allowed to do where we are. I don't know of too much literature that was really geared towards martial artists to tell us what we can do with quote-unquote empty hands. But you know, a lot of martial artists are carrying knives and stuff too. And guns. And he tells the concealed carry people they should also learn martial arts training in case you can't get to their gun. Because that's the thing about it, like a knife. I believe the standard is if they're within 21 feet of you, they can stab you before you can get your gun out. Another thing about knife too, and I'm going to close because this video is getting long. Back in the day when I caught the bus, and I just asked her because she was small. She was this real small young lady. She was really, really tiny. And I just said, you know, I'm surprised you feel comfortable walking out here. I knew something was up because most women are afraid of me, especially back then, because I'm so much bigger than them. Oh. And then they, oh, okay, he seems like he's okay, and then they relax. I said, you didn't see scared me. She said, oh, because I got my knife. I got a dirk. I carry a dirk. And I was like, wow, where do you carry it at? Oh, right here. And then she started having to dig through her purse. I'm like, how you going to get that out? And then we got into this, not real, but just debate about, well, I can still get to my dirk. I'm like, you got it buried in the bottom of your purse. You're not carrying it where you can grab it. But I don't want to have it here. That just looks disgusting. Well, then how is it going to protect you? I was like, well, do you know like karate or something to be able to, in case you can't get to the dirt? I don't need that. Well, you're going to need to do something in case you can't get to your weapon. That's one thing I like about the martial arts. If you know how to bend like a blade of grass and relax and go with blows, at least if you're walking and you get hit, you might be able to let it glance off you. Or if you get stabbed, you feel that thing puncture and you can go with it. I'll tell people when I was little and I felt the bad in my head, I went down, got back up, and then was able to assess what was going on. So that's all I have to say on this one. That's my parameters that I'm defining. And I should make it square because what I'm really trying to do is live a square lifestyle without people killing me if my square lifestyle happens to corner into their rough circle of the world. Peace.